So today is a very important day for us, Divine Disappearance Day of our grandfather Guru, Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj. And today we had no doubt many of you have already had some, I suppose it depends on your time zone, but some of you perhaps have already had some observance or some festival or maybe at least followed something online because of lockdown that may be going on in your respective countries. But here it's evening time, and we did have a noontime program earlier, trying to say something despite our disqualification and glorification of our Param Gurudev. Actually, our Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj, he cautioned us that we cannot give a certificate to Guru Maharaj. You know, if a very small child goes to give praise about a very great person, they will look foolish. You know, who are you to say anything? So Gurudev did caution us when we go to give glorification of the exalted Vaishnavas, we must do so in a careful mood, in a careful manner. Not that we cannot think that we are in a position to. We cannot think that we are in a position to give a certificate, to give our approval, to give our validation to who Srila Sridhar Maharaj is. So carefully, we are trying to express something, and mostly our approach is through the lens of the glorification that has been given by those who are qualified. You know, that is the safe approach. And in the case of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that is very easy actually, because his glories are so prominent. And he has been praised so extensively by so many exalted Vaishnavas, by our Gurudev, by his Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also by so many of his godbrothers. So we had some remembrance along those lines earlier this afternoon, this morning. I'm remembering now Gurudev's comments. I'm getting lots of echoes. I'm remembering now this comment of Srila Gurudev, how the relationship between the grandfather and the grandchild is more sweet, you know, than the relationship between the father and their own direct child. And so he took that view that you know, we are all the grandchildren of Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj. You know, Gurudev always had this affectionate, intimate, personal, family mood towards our mission. You know, actually, I've been contemplating lately, we never felt like we were part of a mission or part of an organization. When Gurudev was present, we just felt like we were part of his family. We felt we were part of Srila Gurudev's family. That because affection, sweetness, intimacy, that was the pervasive element within the mission. So we didn't even think that we were part of a mission. But Gurudev, he liked this angle of vision that he was like the father and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was like the grandfather. Actually, Gurudev didn't even like to think of us as his disciples. He commented once that I am choking to say my disciple. I'm choking I don't like to say my disciple. He thought of everyone as the property of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He saw everyone as an offering that he was making to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So he made this was one particular comment he made, you know, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj was like our grandfather, and that actually our real relationship was with our grandfather. And that there's more sweetness in the relationship with the grandfather, because the father, he may be more scrutinizing in his assessment of his children, may have to be more strict sometimes, but the grandfather will just give a pat on the head and give some candy. So he made that comment. He said, I am just in the middle. I am just in the middle. The real relationship is between you and your grandfather. And he also saw very much that Srila Sridhar Maharaj's mission was living through his disciples, through his grandchildren, you can say. And there were several occasions on the day of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's appearance or disappearance when he would not only talk about the history, so to speak, but he would speak about the expansion of the mission and how he saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj living within that. He would say, he liked that expression, the sun never sets on Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, because everywhere, it was originally an expression referring to the British Empire, but now it is not true of the British Empire, but it is true of Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, that everywhere around, and especially on these festival days, it's a happy thought to think that, as the sun is making its movement around the world, so the glorification of Srila Sridhar Maharaj is continuing in this cycle around the world. And that was Gurudev's desire, that was Gurudev's inspiration. Gurudev commented once that actually Srila Sridhar Maharaj had not wanted him to make so many mats. He didn't want him to make so many missions. Srila Sridhar Maharaj's mood was very simple, conservative, and he had some concern that if the mission spread too much, things would inevitably become more diluted and out of control. That was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's take on things, and it wasn't his direct desire. We can say it was his indirect desire, because on the other hand, we also see in the pranam mantra that Srila Sridhar Maharaj wrote when he started the mat, he indicated the renown of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. That he speaks in that pranam mantra, he speaks of the victory flag that shines above Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, pronouncing its glory within all directions. Srimat Chaitanya Saraswata Matavar Ud Gita Kirtir Jayashram. This Jayashri means victory flag. And so that in that verse is describing this victory flag shining above the mat and in a very profound way pronouncing the glory of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. So we can see some hint, some indication that Srila Sridhar Maharaj did have some desire for, and he could envision the future spread and glory of the mission. And this was in 1942 when he wrote this verse sitting in a thatched hut on the banks of the Ganges in Navadvip in 1942. And he wrote this very grand shloka, Matavara, Srimat Chaitanya Saraswata Matavara. Vara means like the best. So it's saying this mat is the best of all mats. And its glory is known throughout the world. It's written like this. And he's writing this sitting in a thatched hut, by himself on the bank of the Ganges. And he also, this was Rath Yatra Day, 1942. He also hoisted it was like something of an expensive bamboo pole he hoisted this flag on this expensive pole and hoisted it above his ashram. And even some of his godbrothers, they jokingly commented about this, in particular, Saki Babu, one of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's godbrothers. He made some joke about this, what is Sridhar Maharaj thinking? He has this very small little ashram, and he's written this very grand shloka and put this very big bamboo pole. What is he thinking? What is he thinking? And he made a comment to Gurudev about that, and Gurudev repeated it to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj said very soberly, if he is present in the future, he will see. He will see. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had some. There was one aspect of him which could see and appreciate it. There was some inner desire, we have to say, some inner desire for that manifestation. But on another level, in a more direct way, it was against his nature. And when Westerners started coming, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was a little bit concerned, even a little alarmed, when Gurudev built the first Western guest house, where we used to have our Western office. The Paschatya Seva Bhavan was called House for the Western Servitors. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was a little alarmed about that. And in the beginning, he was having the Westerners stay a little separately. There was a piece of land that they owned where they used to grow crops and keep cows sometimes. We called the land of nectar. It's like a 10-15 minute walk from the temple. So in the beginning, he had all the Westerners who came camping out there. And his idea was that the Westerners would have their own mission. And they could come to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. It wouldn't have the name of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati. It was called the Mahamandal, something like that. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj's idea was that they would have their own mission, they would have their own initiating gurus, and they could come to Srila Sridhar, they would stay at some distance and then come to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for advice, for consultation. That was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's idea. And it was really due to Gurudev's mercy that the Westerners became more closely accepted as they did, and they became a part of the Math. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had zero desire for any type of position, any type of renown, fame, glory, zero. He always avoided that, quite to the contrary, he always avoided that. And we were discussing earlier, and I saw in the new video Chinmoy Prabhu posted, I highly recommended the YouTube channel, Srila Govinda Maharaj video series. Chinmoy Prabhu is updating regularly. And I saw also in that video, Gurudev was talking about this, how Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he repeatedly told Gurudev, it was a conversation that would come up now and again over a course of many years. At this point of how Srila Sridhar Maharaj's divine form would be taken care of after his passing. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj was quite insistent that you have to burn my body. No, he insisted it because Gurudev said, we want to make a samadhi. We want to place your divine form in samadhi. We'll build a temple there. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj was quite insistent. No, you have to burn my body. And he even, and I heard in that video, he even said that he would put it in his will. So it was sealed. They had to follow it as a legal contract. So Gurudev said, oh, no, don't, it's okay. You don't have to do that, Guru Maharaj. Don't worry, we will follow your order. And then finally, after bringing this up again and again over the years, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, okay, as you like. So really, he had zero desire. He was always avoiding any position of prestige. But it was Gurudev who on the one hand wanted to glorify his Guru Maharaj, and on the other hand understood that Guru Maharaj was the shelter that so many souls were in need of. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was the genuine shelter. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's carrying the current of the line of Mahaprabhu, of the Rupanuga Sampradaya. Jai. Jai. So there was one occasion when Gurudev, he was commenting, we heard from Madhusudan Maharaj, that Guru Maharaj, he told me not to make too many temples. Guru Maharaj told me that. And then he said, so why have I done so? Why have I disregarded that request of my Guru Maharaj? And he said, only so that in each of these temples, practitioners will have the opportunity to learn the teachings and the glories of Guru Maharaj. So it's a very interesting point that it was a part of his service to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, as an earnest disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He had this desire to connect the souls of this world to him, and in order to glorify Srila Sridhar Maharaj more. And this is an interesting point, I mean, like, I'm talking about this whole idea that we may have about saving the world. Like we see different instances in the case of the great Vaishnavas where they go to do so, but not so much of their own, not like out of their own ego, but more out of a desire to please their guru. Like that was part of Gurudev. It wasn't like Gurudev had this direct desire to go and save the people of this world, but it was part of his service to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and part of his glorification of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. We also see in the case of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, like what was it that prompted him at 69 years old, 65 years old, to take this dangerous, boat journey across the Atlantic, this advanced age, to a circumstance which was very uncertain, with very little support. That was part of his service to his Guru Maharaj, because it was Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur's desire that this mission be taken to the West, and particularly to America. So it's an interesting point. We see at every point the connection of Guru must be there. We will never do anything. We will never go to do anything independently. So even preaching. This is Mahaprabhu's order. Kirtan. This is Mahaprabhu's order. Kirtan is our main practice, but even that will not be done as an independent practice. That will not be done independent of the will of Guru. It is the will of Guru. Srila Swami Maharaj has that very nice expression. It is the desire of Guru, fulfilling the desire of Guru. It is the activating principle of spiritual life. Yeah. So everything that we go to do, the kirtan, the puja, whatever it may be, the cooking, the cleaning, it all must be done as an offering to Guru, and with the vision that it is in service to, it is to fulfill the will of Shri Guru, to fulfill the desire of Shri Guru. Otherwise, it may be karma, it may be good karma, but it is still karma. It is still in connection with this reactionary plane. So, to such an extent, we are indebted we are in need of the grace of Shri Guru. So yeah, that was to go back to what I was saying before. That was Gurudev would often comment on that point. You know, like how the mission of Guru Maharaj had, and we can add, Gurudev never thought of it as his own mission. He always thought of it as Guru Maharaj's mission. So Gurudev, he would, you know, many times we heard him, like in his glorification of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, express his happiness at how the mission had spread around the world, and how that was like a living manifestation of the mercy of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. There was one occasion when he, in Navadvip, maybe Chinmoy Prabhu was there, when Gurudev said, "You are all the genes of Guru Maharaj." that was his vision. In the same way that Srila Saraswati Thakur, he had that vision that his disciples were the Vaibhavs, the extensions of his own Guru Maharaj, and that they were, you know, they were coming to assist him in his service to his guru. So Gurudev, he had that high vision, and he saw, you know, his disciples, the mission, everything as being intrinsically connected with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. I was another thing I was thinking about today. I mean, the thing is, it's just, you know, you could just spend the whole day and you wouldn't get to the end. You know, it is unlimited. What you know, what we have heard and what glories, and that's only within the realm of our conception to some degree. You know, so what to speak of beyond that? But one point which I was thinking about was, and then this is something that all exalted Vaishnavas have, and was particularly prominent in Srila Sridhar Maharaj, is this, and we also saw in Gurudev, was this extreme capacity for harmonizing things. No, I was reflecting how it is described that this is one of the effects of the Mayic energy of Maya, to divide. This is the tendency of Maya. This is the effect of Maya. It causes division. It causes this consciousness of divided entities, of separate entities. And now, of course, we see that especially so as Kali Yuga progresses. But the transcendental, the spiritual potency is unifying, is harmonizing, and the material energy is divisive. It is dividing and creating this conception of enemies and friends. But we see in the great Vaishnavas, they have this incredible capacity to harmonize, and that was especially prominent in Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And then there Gurudev, he was giving some examples of this in one of his talks, and one of the more prominent ones was regarding the division of the Gaudiya Math after Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur left the world. And as many of you know, there was a lot of fighting and division, and there was a principal split between two parties, and it was so bad that it ended up going to the court, you know. So it got tangled up with the law, and for 12 years there was a court case that was running, and finally they went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, very, very quickly he was able to harmonize that. He made, there were 64 Gaudiya mats, and so brilliant, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. We were mentioning this earlier, how Gurudev commented that he had no enemies, and Gurudev especially relished this one that there's that famous comment that one of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's godbrothers made, and he had no enemies, to the extent that even those who were apparently considered his enemies, they also came to see him. They also, respected him and sought his counsel. And there was one who because there was this divide, which was principally between Kunja Babu and Ananta Vasudev, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was always particularly good friends with Ananta Vasudev, and so he was always Srila Sridhar Maharaj was never like a party man, but he was always associated as being a part of Ananta Vasudev's group. But there was one occasion when someone who was the secretary of the opposing group, of Kunja Babu's group, he came to visit Srila Sridhar Maharaj and was hearing from him, and somebody asked him, why are you coming here? And he said, what was it? Let me see, maybe someone else will remember better. He said, because of his deep common sense, his strong intelligence. And anyone remember, Chinwai, you remember the third one? His deep common sense, his strong intelligence, and his disinterested nature. That was it, disinterested nature. Jai Shri Giriraj Prabhupada Jai. So he was just so brilliant, and he was qualified in every way, spiritually and materially. Gurudev mentioned how when he was growing up at school, he what do you call it when you skip a grade? Is there a name for that? Or maybe just skipped a grade. But twice he got like a double promotion. He was jumped to a higher class, because he was just so brilliant. He grew up speaking Sanskrit in his households. Like that was just how they talked, how they chatted to each other in Sanskrit. His family, Gurudev mentioned that his family line were very distinguished throughout India. They were like, Gurudev said, maybe not everybody knew Guru Maharaj's name, but if you said the family line that he came from, like any qualified person in India, they would recognize that name. So a very, very like highly cultured family line. So there was there was this occasion with this after 12 years of court case, and they finally came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, very, he had like a simple and also brilliant suggestion for how they could harmonize the split. There were 64 Gaudiya mats, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's suggestion was that that between these two parties, one would have the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya mat, which was like their flagship mat in Calcutta. And then they would have that Bagh Bazar mat in Calcutta, and then all of the other mats that were outside of Bengal. And then the other party would have the Chaitanya mat, which was like the Mool mat, the mother mat in Mayapur and all of the other mats within Bengal, and they agreed to this. And there were so many occasions when Srila Sridhar Maharaj kind of like came to the rescue. You know, I heard another story from Gurudev of one of, I can't remember which one it was, but one of, well, I think I remember, but I don't want to say the name. But one of these prominent godbrothers, he was at risk to go to prison for some issue. And he could only get out of it if he had some particular backing from some of his godbrothers. But he knew that none of his godbrothers would want to help him. And so then he was very clever, and because he knew that if Srila Sridhar Maharaj would give some backing, then the others would all follow. And he was even more clever, because he knew that if Gurudev would bring it to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, then Srila Sridhar Maharaj would accept it. Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj had so much love for Gurudev that he would accept whatever Gurudev proposed. And so he called for Gurudev to come and visit him in Calcutta, and then he made this request. I need Sridhar Maharaj's help. Please ask him to call a meeting of our godbrothers, and they can help me get out of this trouble. And so Gurudev, he went back and told Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was very compassionate, and he said, he's in trouble, we have to help him. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj called a meeting, and because and nobody wanted to help, but because Srila Sridhar Maharaj called the meeting, then they all felt compelled, to help him. Also with Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, we hear how, unfortunately, when he came back from the West in the beginning, some of his godbrothers, they were a little envious, they were not so supportive, and they were making some problems for him. In the beginning, when he came back from the West, he requested some of them to organize a reception for him, because he was coming back with some Western disciples, and he wanted some dignified reception. But none of them replied, and he also needed accommodation, but nobody replied. And he didn't want to ask Srila Sridhar Maharaj, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj was poor. He was always poor. His mission was always small in the early days. But then finally he had no choice, and he wrote to Gurudev and Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he said, yes, of course, we must organize something. And he gave him that, what we would call the blue house just down the road to stay in. And then when Srila Sridhar Maharaj made this announcement, then everybody came. And there were other incidents like that. Srila Sridhar Maharaj had a very unique position, a preeminent position within the group of Srila Saraswati Thakur's followers. I heard also like in a smaller scale, I heard this morning a very, very humorous story Gurudev told, which is a very nice example, like in day-to-day dealings, like how harmonizing Srila Sridhar Maharaj could be. Gurudev told of this one incident when Srila Gurudev, our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, Gurudev didn't say the details, but he got in some type of situation with some of the neighbors, some of the locals, and they were all very angry with Gurudev over some incident. And Gurudev, he was a young man, lots of energy, and Gurudev, he could be like very direct and just speak his mind. So there was some incident that angered some of the locals, and Gurudev said how this huge crowd of around 100 people, they came to the mat, like this angry mob came, looking for Gurudev, like wanting to beat him. And Gurudev was in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's veranda at the time. And Gurudev was very angry himself. You know, he had his own dispute with him also. And so Gurudev was ready, like he was going to go down, like to face them. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj stopped him. And and then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he called out to the person who was kind of leading the group, Kali Das Babu, Gurudev said his name was. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he spoke to him in a very friendly way, and he said, "Oh, Kali Das Babu, I'm so happy to see you." And there's like this big angry mob, you know. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you." He said, "For many days I've been thinking, oh, when will Kalidas come to see me as a friend?" Said, and now you're coming in the mood of an enemy. and I'm happy at least that you're coming, even if you're coming in the mood of an enemy. And and so this, of course, like, you know, kind of softened this man, and so everyone's kind of like cooling. Gurudev's cooling down, and this mob is cooling down, and then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he called for him to come up, and so this man and a few others, like 4 or 5, they came up to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's veranda, and then Gurudev, you know, he was feeling like you know, he was supposed to make some apology, and so then Gurudev he said something like well, you know, like it wasn't fully respectful, but like something like, I know that you need an apology for me, you know, so like I know that's what you want from me, so I'm gonna make an apology to you. And he put out his hands like to like formalize it. And then, but Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he felt like if Gurudev were to be the one to make an apology, and just so clever, like so clever and so harmonizing, and so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he thought, if Gurudev were to make an apology, it would look bad for the monks. It would like be bad for the prestige of the mott. It would be like they were saying we did something wrong. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, then he interjected and he said, "Oh no, don't do it like this. You will both apologize to each other. If you're apologizing, you must also apologize." And so then that man, he felt like, well, you know, if I, you know, I came here to beat this guy, and now I'm in a position where I'm supposed to apologize, and like, so he just dismissed the whole thing, and he said, "Oh no, it's okay, don't worry, no, I don't need any apology." And then Gurudev took it a step further, and he said, "So you're happy with me? You're okay then?" And the man said, Yes, I'm okay. And then Gurudev said, "Well, if you're really okay with me, you have to prove it. And you have to give something to me." And the man said, Yes, of course. Anything you want. So then Gurudev asked him for some favor, and he said they needed to run some electric lines to the blue house where Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada was going to be staying, and so he got permission to run these wires across his land. So it's just really like touched me, you know, like how in this, and it's very inspirational, because it's like a kind of like a day-to-day thing, you know, if we think of the various conflicts and tensions that we have in our day-to-day lives, you know, it gives some inspiration, you know, this, like how these things can just be like diffused. so much capacity. See, now it's almost 8 o'clock here. Yeah, so many things, and we're just on the periphery. There's another very nice story, just like as a demonstration of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's capacity. And this story many of you have heard already, no doubt. But there was this one man who lived in the I don't remember the name of the town or village, but it was like close to Navadvip. And he was a wealthy man who had become a drunkard. But he was married to a very respectable lady. And so she was very disturbed at her husband's habits. And so one day she came, I think with her father-in-law. They came to Navadvip and they visited Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and actually that was also a very that was also a funny circumstance. They came in to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, as we've mentioned, he always had a very simple nature. You know, he was so qualified that he always had a very simple nature. Gurudev he commented how in his younger years, one of his very good friends was this Ananta Vasudev, who we mentioned earlier. And Ananta Vasudev was absolutely brilliant. Like before that occasion at Srila Saraswati Thakur's passing from this world, when he requested Srila Sridhar Maharaj to sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, and thereby indicated his, Srila Sridhar Maharaj as being like his successor. Before that incident, Gurudev said most of the Gaudiya Math, they were thinking that Ananta Vasudev, he was the next, because he was considered to be very close to Saraswati Thakur, and he was just brilliant. Saraswati Thakur was very difficult to understand. If you read some of his English articles, the language, the sophistication of the language that he uses is very difficult. Even Swami Maharaj Prabhupada expressed that I couldn't always understand what my Guru Maharaj was saying, but I always continued hearing. But Ananta Vasudev, Saraswati Thakur made some comment like, he knows what I'm going to say next. Like others could not understand what he was saying at all, and Ananta Vasudev could understand what he was going to say next. And unfortunately, later, Ananta Vasudev deviated from the line of Saraswati Thakur. But anyhow, naturally, Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Ananta Vasudev, they were good friends, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj was also so brilliant. But Gurudev commented that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, although he was so intelligent and so qualified, he had no ego about it. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj always had some attraction to the junior persons. So like he would mix in a familiar way with very junior new persons within the mission. And Ananta Vasudev, he would become irritated at that sometimes, because he felt like, you're my friend and I have such a high senior position. Why you're mixing with all these junior persons? But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had this simplicity about him. And so this occasion, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was fixing a fence or something like that. And he was maybe just wearing like a gamsha around him or something, and he's fixing a fence, probably looking a little disheveled or something. And so these persons came, this lady and her father-in-law, looking for, they'd never met Srila Sridhar Maharaj before. And so they asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, we've come to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the great Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, oh, really? What would you like to see him about? And they said, oh, it is a very private matter. We can only discuss it with him directly. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he went inside and he kind of dusted himself off a bit, and he put on another cloth, and then he came out. I am Sridhar Maharaj. What can I do for you? So they were a little embarrassed. But anyhow, so they expressed their difficulty to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. They described the situation with this man. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, okay, you bring him here and I'll do my best. And so they went back, and then at another time, they didn't tell the man directly their plan, but they made some excuse. Oh, we'll go for a walk on the Ganges. And then they were walking near the Mat, and they said, oh, we've heard there's this very great Mahatma living nearby, Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Maharaj. Maybe we should go and visit him. And the man wasn't very interested. He was a little reluctant, but they put some pressure, and finally he agreed to go along. And so they went in and saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he spoke to him for about 20 minutes, and the man was completely transformed. There's one famous verse in Bhagavatam that he explains to him. Labdva sudorlabam idam bahu sambhavante manushyam artadam anityam abhihadir tornam yatet napated anumritya java. What's the last line? Nishreya shaya vishaya kalu sarvatasya. It's saying that, having achieved this extremely rare human birth, one should immediately, as long as they have some life in their body, endeavor for their highest welfare. This human birth is sudurlabha, extremely rare to attain, and so it should not be wasted. Manusham artadam, having achieved this very valuable human birth, crossing over so many other births, then tornam means immediately, as long as one has not fallen down and died, they should engage in this, in their spiritual cultivation. And that material sense pleasure, it is easily available in all births. So why should we spend our time in this human birth? You can have this enjoyment in any birth, in the animal births. In this human birth, must take advantage of it. So he gave very wonderful explanation of this verse, and the man within this short period was completely transformed. And so much so that the next day, or maybe it was a few days later, that man's barber, he came to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and he gave him full dandavad and in this very ecstatic mood, and he told Srila Sridhar Maharaj, we've heard in the time of Mahaprabhu, how these persons, these very, very sinful persons like Jagai and Madai, they were saved. And now I'm experiencing for myself how you've saved. I know this man, he was a drunkard and a womanizer and this and that. And he had one short meeting with you, and now he's completely transformed. He's wearing devotional dress, he's chanting his japa, he's behaving in a very devotional mood. This is a miracle. This is a complete miracle. Oh, this was the capacity of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And these are all, what can I say? These are all things on the periphery, really, of who Srila Sridhar Maharaj is. The greatest wealth that we have from him is in his divine instruction, in the extraordinarily profound insight, which he has given for our progressive practicing lives. He has given us the real path, the real way forward. As we were discussing a few days ago, that wonderful expression he made, we want. He was asked this question, have you seen Krishna? and he said, no, I will not have the audacity to say that I've ever seen Krishna, but I can say that I'm on the right path. I'm seeing some signs along the way. And that we want the real Krishna living in the heart of our Guru Maharaj. We don't want any marketplace Krishna that we can buy for some cheap place, some cheap price. So in the same way, there's a marketplace of Krishna conception. There's a marketplace of Krishna consciousness, and there's many varieties, many degrees of conception. And not only conception, but actual spiritual potency, spiritual purity. And in, amongst that, that group, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he shines, preeminently, giving the pure current and also the pure conception. And his greatest gift is our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Raksak Dev-Goswami Maharaj, who embodied everything of Srila Sridhar Maharaj and also had his own unique flavor, his own unique sweetness. So we consider ourselves to be inconceivably blessed, inconceivably fortunate. All we have to do is to try to hold on, try to continue. And Gurudev made that comment, we have got one thread of Guru Maharaj. And if we can hold on to that one thin thread, then we will be okay. We must be successful. He would say, Gurudev would say sometimes, your future is very bright. Your future is very bright. And undoubtedly it is if we can hold on to their lotus feet and somehow or other simply manage to continue. Well, maybe I'll stop there. We have a few more devotees who've joined us. I see Ash tuned in from Oregon. Lovely to see you. And okay, we see Jayadev Prabhu here also. And we have a Jai Guru Dev. I don't know who that is. but welcome and right on. Would anyone else like to? Oh, and Rukmini is also here from Florida. Very happy to have you with us. What time is it in Florida?
It is 2:00 right now.
Okay, so it's quite a time difference. America's so big. Would anyone like to add anything here or ask anything or suggest anything? Or shall we conclude? Our host Chinmoy Prabhu, he's abandoned us.
I had to leave. You have to go to the temple.
Oh really? Oh right.
There.
Right, you're having a festival there. Okay.
Yeah, they couldn't figure out how to do it live from there, so we had to go and do it.
Oh really? Chinmoy's become indispensable.
Yeah.
My goodness. That's quite funny. Okay, so you're our hostess then.
No. I think Govinda Nandini is co-host now. I am not good.
Oh, Nandini, I didn't say hello to Govinda Nandini. You've been very quiet. Dandavad. Dandavad, Govinda Nandini. Okay, well,
Sorry.
They're going to
maybe
program online. Are they going to like do it online? Is that Chinmoy Prabhu is doing
Yes,
that right?
yes. It's gonna be on Facebook on the Seva Ashram Facebook page.
Thank you. Nice to know.
I think it starts now or 11:30. I don't remember if it was 11 or 11:30, but soon.
Thank you so much, Vishakha Devi. It was just really lovely to hear all the stories and very inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Indra. Thank you. Okay, well, maybe we'll conclude there. It's really wonderful to see all of your beautiful faces, your beautiful
Vishakha
names.
Didi,
Yes, Prabhu.
Srila Guru Maharaj talk about planets of faith. Can you explain a little bit on that?
Planets of faith.
Yeah.
I would like to see the exact context of that. But I think what Srila Sridhar Maharaj is speaking, I mean, just hearing your expression there, it sounds like he's speaking about a gradation of faith. I'm remembering that phrase, but I don't remember the exact context. But it sounds to me that he's speaking about a gradation. This is something very integral to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's approach always. He's in the style of the Ramananda Sambad, which was so dear to Srila Sridhar Maharaj in this famous discussion in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Sridhar Maharaj always took a systematic approach of analysis based on a gradation. So there is faith. There are so many types of faith, and there are so many conceptions which one may have faith in. But there is also a gradation there. I was listening to a really, I came across this a few months ago, and I'm preparing it now as an article. Really amazing talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, where he was saying how we need to have a clear and systematic understanding of our conception of our faith. Let me pull it up. I have it right here because I was working on it today. And how there are so many. We cannot have whimsical or blind faith. We need to have clear and seeing faith. Otherwise, we can easily be deviated. Let me just bring this up. He's saying, let me see, where shall I start? We must generally, I'll start here. Very, very scrupulously and very discriminately, we are to follow and examine all these specialties of these different layers or planes of existence. Otherwise, in the name of anything and everything, we shall accept everything, anything and everything. We will be puzzled, perplexed. The systematic study, strong and very accurate differences between the different layers of thought must be improved, must be followed, must be understood. Otherwise, we are in danger. At any moment, anyone may say, oh, I have finished all these things. It is all nothing. What Charvak says, Charvak is a famous Indian atheistic philosopher. What Charvak says, that is well and good. This reaction will come. Sincere, sevan mukh, means the service mood. Generally, we must try to understand the nature of three planes: the land of exploitation, the land of renunciation, and the land of dedication. Then we are to calculate. If you understand the evaluation, the proper evaluation of these planes in general, Then in fine points also, we can try to calculate how much renunciation, how much exploitation, how much dedication is mixed with it. Then evaluation. We must be, so if we're now analyzing particular conceptions, we can see how much do they have of these three different planes: the tendency, the element of exploitation, selfish gain, the element of renunciation, rejection, and the element of dedication. And then if we can recognize these elements, then we can make an evaluation of where this conception stands within the absolute. So we must be well versed in the intrinsic knowledge of these three planes first, and then the gradation and how the development is possible in a mathematical way. Then we cannot be removed from our present fixed position. If we are uncertain, anyone may convince, try to convince, and I will be a prey. I will fall prey to his whimsical representation. Today I'm a Chaitanyite. The other day I'm a Shankarite. The other day I'm a Buddhist. Another day Islam. Another day I'm an atheist. No stability. So all of these conceptions, we can say they represent a particular sphere of faith or planet of faith. But there's some, and of course, any type of faith has its value, but at the same time, there is some gradation, and we want to try to appreciate that gradation and have a clear idea of what our own aspiration is. That's, I mean, those are my thoughts without seeing the particular context of that statement. What do you think, Ramanand Prabhu?
No, it's beautiful. It's good. Because Guru Maharaj also talk about Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, that I don't remember exactly, that he, from Ayodhya, he skipped Ayodhya and then he went to Mathura, from Mathura to Govardhan. So there is gradation everywhere, even in Vrindavan.
Right. Well, he makes, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he makes this point how in their description of Krishna Leela, how in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami, he has more of a detailed description of the development within the spiritual sky. And so he charts how Gopakumar moves from Vaikuntha. I'm trying to remember the exact comment. I think Ayodhya. Let me see if I can bring it up exactly. But Sanatana Goswami, he shows more of a detailed development in the spiritual sky, whereas Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita, he jumps. In this verse in Upadeshamrita, this is in I think it's in Loving Search for the Lost Servant. No, is it Loving Search? Yeah, it's Loving Search. He in this verse, Vaikuntaj Janito Vada Madhupuri, he jumps from, I think it's Ayodhya. I think the point was about Ayodhya, that he misses out Ayodhya. Let me just check here. No, actually, I think it's in Search for Sri Krishna. Maybe it's Search for Sri Krishna. It's a very sweet expression, how he says how Rupa Goswami like leaps over. And I think it's Ayodhya. Let's see.
Gurudev say many times that verse. I don't remember, but he spoke about that verse many times.
Yes. Here we are. Rupa Goswami leaped from Vaikuntha to Mathura in one stride. In Mathura, Mathura is superior to Vaikuntha because Lord Shri Krishna appeared there. It is there that everything is shown in a clear and substantial way. In Mathura, we find the Krishna conception of Godhead. Yes, so yeah, it is a Yodya. That was the point. In the gradation within the spiritual sky, there's Vaikuntha. Well, actually beneath that there's Shiva Loka, then there's Vaikuntha, and then there's a Yodya, then there's Mathura, then there's Dwaraka, and then there's Vrindavan. And this is a gradation made on the basis of rasa, of ecstatic, heart exchange that is available with the Lord. And so in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami is charting the progress of Gopakumar as he moves in a like a very step-by-step way from one plane to another. And so it's more, Sanatan takes a more detailed approach, and so Gopakumar moves through every single plane. But in Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami, he jumps. This is Srila Sridhar Maharaj's very sweet vision, how he leapt from Vaikuntha to Mathura. He left out a Yodya, because in a Yodya, his consideration is in a Yodya, Ramachandra's place. These rasas are not so developed, they're not so clear. In a Yodya is a little more developed in rasa than Vaikuntha, but everything there is still somewhat suppressed and leaning towards the mood of Dasya ras. There is Vatsalya, but it's not so Vatsalya, the parental guardian mood, but it's not so developed. There is Sakya ras, the mood of friendship, but it's not so developed, not so expansive. There is Madhura ras, but only with the conjugal relationship, only with Sita, and that relationship also it's leaning towards the mood of Dasya ras, servitorship. So the rasas are not so clearly developed in a Yodya, and so in Upadeshamrita there's this famous verse that Ramananda's reminding us, Gurudev quoted many times. This verse is describing the gradation within the spiritual sky. So Vaikuntaj Janito Vadamadupuri Tachapi Rasotsava Vrinda Ranya Mudara Pani Ramana Tatrapi Govardhana. Saying that Mathura is superior to Vaikuntha. And why? Because in Vaikuntha, the Lord does not have any birth lila. He just appears. And according to ordinary calculation, you will say, but that is what you would expect of divinity. Why? How can God have parents? That doesn't make sense. If God had parents, then he can't really be God. That means he came from somebody else, So according to our ordinary calculation, that's what you would expect. But according to the calculation of rasa, like heart ecstasy, then something's deficient there. Because it means you can't have that kind of relationship with the Lord. And that relationship, it's not a physical expression, it's a posing for the purpose of lila, divine pastime. It's not that the Lord actually needs parents and actually needs to take birth from someone, but this is a kind of play, this is a posing in order to enhance the exchange of love. It creates a greater variety of relationship. So in Vaikuntha, Lord Vishnu, he can't have that relationship, that parental relationship with anyone. So according to the calculation of rasa, there's something lacking there. So this verse of Rupa Goswami and Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction, is saying that so from that consideration, we will say that Mathura is higher because the Lord has pastimes of birth there. He has parents. And then Vrindavan is higher than Mathura because the Rasa Leela, the Rasa dance took place there. this dance with the beautiful damsels of Vrindavan. And so there's a greater degree of rasa, loving heart exchange there. And then higher than Vrindavan is Govardhan, where more intimate, more exclusive pastimes took place between Krishna and the Braja Gopis. So in that expression, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is sweetly expressing this, how Rupa Goswami has kind of jumped over Ayodhya because the rasa is not so developed there. Is Srila Sridhar Maharaj, only Srila Sridhar Maharaj can say these kind of things. Rupa Goswami jumped over Ayodhya. Okay, well, I don't want to hold you all up.
Thank you so much. Very much.
I'm happy that you brought this up. They're very important points our gurus have discussed. So
I listen Guru Maharaj, he talking to Sagar Maharaj, different Vaishnavas. So Guru Maharaj is like a lion. He's so merciful, but he has so much capacity. He is like a lion. He's roaring. He's trying to bestow his mercy to all the amazing people, all the Vaishnavas. And at association, but when I hear his lecture, I feel I am in Navdeep. I feel his affection. I feel his shelter.
okay, very nice, very nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Dandavas.
Jai Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Tadiya Tira Bhav Mahamahotsava Titi ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Ki Hari Nam Sankirtan ki Jai,
Devi, Dasi ki Jai.
Jai every day. Okay, we'll look forward to meeting you all again very soon, and hope you have a spiritually fulfilling week. Even if the world's falling apart, there's no guarantee what's going to happen in the world. But we can put all our bets on this. So our prayer is that we may have our spiritual cultivation will become more and more bright by the grace of our gurus. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.